All right, good morning, everyone. I hope you had an enjoyable day yesterday and got a lot out of it, and I hope you're ready for another action-packed and successful day. I got a statistic for you that I'm very pleased to share. Over 100,000 people watched our event via our live stream yesterday, and Speaker Ryan and Vice President Pence's remarks, they're still driving the news today. And I think it's pretty safe to say that everybody all across this country, and certainly here in Washington, is talking about manufacturing and manufacturing success. So thank you so much for your great help in driving that message. Now this morning we're going to have the opportunity to hear from a really great guy, the Secretary of Labor, and I'm really thrilled that we're going to be able to welcome him to the stage. But first I want to recognize our strong partners at Pfizer. Tony Mataluna, a great friend, is retiring from Pfizer in a few weeks, and he's been part of our executive committee for a number of years. We're already working closely with his successor, Kirsten Lund-Jurgensen. We appreciate very much Pfizer's ongoing support and engagement, and as you may have seen, and this is one of the more exciting things that they've been doing lately, Pfizer kicked off their Driven to Discover the Cure corporate ad campaign with an impactful television ad just a few months ago. So today we're pleased to debut their new Pfizer Global Supply micro-documentary, From Molecules to Millions. The video highlights Pfizer's impressive manufacturing presence in the United States and their commitment to delivering quality medicines to patients around the world. So take a look.
I was young. I was on a bike ride. Didn't think anything of it. I just started shaking uncontrollably. I knew something was wrong. I couldn't breathe. I got rushed to the hospital. Made me realize how precious, life is. That's something that I don't want anybody else to go through.
We created a breakthrough vaccine born in the United States.
It's a very unique opportunity to be behind the scenes.
There's so many moving parts. If just one small piece is off, it will jeopardize the years of work that went into making the vaccine.
As a mom, I want to protect my kids, and it is amazing to know that I make a vaccine that can help protect them.
I tell my boys that I'm in the business of saving lives, and that makes me proud to come to work.
When you know that the work you're doing is directly affecting your friends, your family, and other people in your community and the world, it makes what you do matter.
The life that it protects is priceless.
What an inspiring way to start the day. The business of saving lives. Thanks again to our friends at Pfizer. It's not an issue that we're dealing with today, but the subject matter in that video is exactly why we fight so hard for intellectual property protections for Pfizer and for other pharmaceutical manufacturers. It's a key issue for us, as so many are, and that was a great reminder. You can also view the video, by the way, on our meeting app, and it'll be available on Pfizer's Facebook and Instagram today. So now it's my honor to introduce to you Secretary Alexander Alex Acosta. I think you may have sensed that over the last 8 years, the business community has had kind of a rough relationship with the Department of Labor. And that's the charitable and diplomatic way to say it. That was actually really good for business for the NAM's Manufacturers Legal Action Center for Legal Action. We often found ourselves suing the National Labor Relations Board, and we often found ourselves winning those cases, I might add. But look, the regulations coming out of the Department of Labor were not good for business overall, and they were not good for investment and jobs in this country. They were overreaching, they were counterproductive, and they were harming the men and women of manufacturing. I had the great opportunity to meet with the Secretary just days after he was confirmed, and I told him that under his leadership, manufacturers are optimistic that much needed change has finally come to the Department of Labor. And at that lunch, we talked extensively about the skills gap and the workforce challenges that manufacturers have all over the country. And the fact that even though we will be creating 3.5 million jobs in manufacturing over the next 10 years, 2 million jobs, if we do nothing, 2 million of those jobs will go unfilled because we can't find folks with the right skills to do those jobs. So I had the opportunity to tell him about the great work of our Manufacturing Institute in this area. And as you all know, I believe the Institute is now headed by Carolyn Lee. So the Secretary is a proven leader who understands the complexities of the modern workplace. And we're going to be working closely with him and the administration to provide solutions on this complex issue. Alex Acosta has served in 3 presidentially appointed Senate-confirmed positions, a member of the National Labor Relations Board, back in the Bush 43 administration, Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice, and U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of Florida. He's the son of Cuban refugees, a first-generation college graduate, a recipient of 2 degrees from Harvard, a former clerk to Justice Alito, and the former dean of FIU College of Law. And even though he has all those impressive credentials, the most impressive credential is that he is a husband and a father of 2. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the 27th United States Secretary of Labor, Alex Acosta. Mr. Secretary.
Jay, thank you for the introduction. In my short time as Secretary of Labor, I visited some impressive facilities. I was out of Detroit visiting Milton Manufacturing, a woman-owned manufacturing facility, more on the small business side. And then I went over to Ford's Rouge facility to meet with some apprentices there and watch the F-150s being made every 56 seconds. Isn't that incredible? American manufacturing is remarkable in its efficiency, its scale, its sophistication, and the impact of manufacturing on the American economy simply can't be underestimated. And I want to begin by acknowledging that. What you do for the American economy is incredible. According to NAM's own Manufacturing Institute, every dollar spent on manufacturing adds another $1.37 to the American economy. There's a multiplier effect. Every 100 jobs in manufacturing creates an additional 250 jobs across other sectors. And so it's not just the job that you create, but all the other jobs that are created as a result. More than 12 million Americans work in manufacturing today, and millions more work in jobs that will support the manufacturing sector. The unemployment rate within your sector is 3.2%. Can you imagine that? 3.2% within manufacturing. That's almost a full percentage point lower than the national 4.3%, which is already the lowest it's been since 2001. Most importantly, you're looking to hire. There are more than 350,000 job openings this month in manufacturing. And that reflects the economy overall, with more than 6 million job openings throughout the American economy. That is the highest number of job openings since the Bureau of Labor Statistics started keeping this data. More jobs are open today than ever. Now, filling those jobs is unfortunately harder than many understand. All of you in this room understand that, but it is harder than many understand, because there is a gap between the skills American workers have and the skills that many of these jobs require. In the past, manufacturing required perhaps less skills, but today, when I visited those factories, what I saw was just so different. You need workers who understand technology, engineering, math. You're looking for employees who can build, maintain, fix machines, run the machines. You almost need coding to run some of those machines, right? And that is what you're looking for. And those workers are increasingly short supply. Jay mentioned Carolyn Lee's, Carolyn, congratulations, wherever I'm told you're in the audience, so congrats. But her manufacturing institute came out with a study, and it shows that there are 2 million projected vacant jobs in manufacturing alone if we don't address the skills gap. And so the capacity to grow is limited as much by whether you can hire the right employees as by whether there's demand or capital. And that's a major problem. It's a problem for employers, it's a problem for manufacturers, but it's also a problem for Americans who want to work, but they don't have the right skills. They don't have the skills that you're looking for. Now, let me say this. Shortly after being confirmed, I attended the G20 meeting of labor ministers. And to a country, every labor minister at the G20 identified the skills gap as one of the most important issues facing their nation. And I say that because if we can solve the skills gap here in America, we will have a decided advantage over foreign competitors. I was speaking at the Foreign Investment Summit yesterday about why foreign investment should come to the United States and manufacture here at home. And the topic there was, how do we address the skills gap? If we build factories here in America, how do we ensure that we can hire the employees with the right skills? Well, apprenticeships offer a solution here. And so many in this room know what an apprenticeship is. Apprentices will have highly developed skill sets, from manufacturing to mechatronics to other areas. And there's some major companies in this room that already have apprenticeships: 3M, Alcoa, Cummins, Harley-Davidson, Siemens, so many others. These are household names. But apprenticeships don't have to be limited to these size companies. Small and mid-sized businesses can benefit too. Drew Greenblatt with Marlin Steel, I know, is leading your workforce development effort. Well, on the same day that I visited Ford, I referenced Milton. Well, Milton's also a small family-owned manufacturing facility that makes metal and fabricates products for the defense industry. They don't have an apprenticeship program currently, but they're looking to start one. And so from the large steel to the small steel manufacturing facilities, you can have apprenticeships throughout the industry. Trump's apprenticeship initiative is geared toward helping employers, trade groups, joint labor management groups, and others launch apprenticeships throughout all sectors of the economy. I've been speaking with Administrator Linda McMahon, and we're going to be visiting small businesses to talk about how small businesses, too, can benefit from apprenticeships. Now, Ford actually is the other extreme, right? And they have a major apprenticeship program. And when I toured the Rouge facility, I met 3 of their apprentices. They have more than 100 apprentices there. And nationwide, they have hundreds. And their apprentices receive 8,000 hours of on-the-job training, along with 600 hours of classroom training. And I say this because Ford finds it profitable to invest in these apprentices. Because when they're done, and they're working throughout this program. It's called Earn While You Learn. They're working, they're being paid, and they're learning. And when they're done, they can work anywhere in the Ford facility. So they have employees that are dedicated to the company that taught them their skills. They have employees that are flexible. They're not tied to one particular machine or one particular job because they have the flexibility to work throughout the plant. They have employees that understand the value of continuing to learn and stay updated as technology changes. It's an incredible program. You know, the credits they receive in this program are recognized by local community colleges. And it's such a good program that they can get an associate's degree by taking only 3 additional classes at the community college. I think that's incredible. Now, the challenge at the Department of Labor is communicating the value of apprenticeship programs across all aspects of the economy. As I said, it's a paid work component along with hands-on educational experience. It's earned while they learn. It's demand-driven education. You know, higher education sometimes says, this is what students should know, and don't stop and ask, well, is what they should know what's going to get them a job? Is what they should know what they want to know? And there are some basics that everyone should know, but higher education also needs to listen to the demands of the workplace and educate individuals in the skills the workplace demands. Now, I say demand-driven education because the employers in this room and not the government is in the best position to know what skills are needed for today's workplace and tomorrow's workplace. And apprenticeships that are employer designed will focus on those high demand skills. And this is of great benefit to the employees and the apprentices. The most obvious benefit is higher wages and ready jobs. Graduates of apprenticeship programs have an average starting salary of $60,000. That reflects how much they are valued by their companies. And you know that's higher than the average starting wage of a college graduate? Says a lot, right? More than 91% of apprentices have jobs waiting for them when they're complete. And they're not the only ones who benefit. Employers report that apprentices hit the ground running with exactly the skills that they need. And so there's higher productivity and lower turnover rate. Now, this data makes the case, but the people tell the story. Matthew Sampson's an electrical machine repairman at Cummins. He's part of their apprenticeship program. Matthew's manager says he's exemplary, shows up on time or ahead of schedule, constantly learning, continuing his education by pursuing his bachelor's degree while working. He's getting his bachelor's degree in industrial engineering. Matthew says the apprenticeship program at Cummins has given him a far better life than he could ever imagine. And he's challenging himself to get his degree and to reach higher in his career. And because he's earning while he's learning, he's doing this without student or with less student debt. Now, Miranda Baker is a machinist apprentice at Siemens. Siemens is another company that has brought the apprenticeship program from abroad here to the US. And she's working in Alabama as a temporary contract worker. She saw machinists at work and knew that's exactly what she wanted to do. She loves her work, and she says that Siemens is giving her an amazing opportunity. And so we have several of these stories at the department that I could talk about. And after reviewing them, President Trump decided to take action. So last week, he put his weight behind helping people like Matthew and Miranda by signing an executive order that will expand apprenticeship programs to all sectors of the American economy. And in that order, the president notes that federally funded education and workforce development programs are not serving American workers well. They are not teaching American workers the skills that employers require, and that needs to change. And so how are we going to do that? First, it is the policy of the federal government now to create more affordable pathways to good jobs, whether through college, through community college, or through alternative educational pathways, more affordable pathways to good jobs. And we're going to do this by promoting apprenticeships and by making sure existing workforce development programs are effective. We're going to do this by easing the regulatory burdens on these programs and eliminating those that aren't effective and shifting funding to those that are. We're going to promote the apprenticeship model, and we're going to promote it by taking a page out of other industries like education. You know, the Department of Education does not directly register colleges and universities. The Department of Education empowers third parties to do that on their behalf. And so we are going to do the exact same thing. We're going to work with a variety of third parties like trade and industry groups, companies, nonprofits, unions, labor management organizations, organizations like yours, and empower these groups to design the apprenticeships so long as quality standards are met. And by empowering groups like yours to design apprenticeships that make sense for your members, we're saying you know more about what you do than we do. And we want to trust you to know what you need. It's kind of a good concept, no? And so we hope that you take up that challenge. Now, third, let me say the Department of Education is committed to supporting this effort as well. And on their part, they're going to work with the community colleges and the institutions of higher learning to integrate apprenticeship programs directly into their curricula. You know, when I was at dean of a law school, my receptionist wanted to be a police officer. He majored in criminal justice, and he very much wanted to go into law enforcement. But he didn't have any practical skills. He had never been to a police academy. Why can't a criminal justice degree program incorporate police academy training? You see that in medicine. Doctors have residencies. You see that in nursing. Why can't institutions of higher learning, whether in engineering or in criminal justice or other parts, incorporate practical on-the-job experience by having a semester at a manufacturing facility where people are learning how it runs and how it works, a semester at the police academy? That is the model for higher education. And the Department of Education is going to be working with institutions of higher education to incorporate that apprenticeship model there too. So as we move forward in these initiatives, I very much wanted to continue hearing from Jay. He and I have talked several times, and I know that he's excited about this. And from the National Association of Manufacturers and from each and every one of you, we want your insights and your expertise. We want your input to help shape this initiative. You're the ones that hire. So you're the ones that we need to talk to know what skills you want to hire. The Department of Labor greatly appreciates your businesses and understands that your growth means growth for the economy. And as I started, for every one of your jobs, there's a multiplier effect with jobs throughout the economy. And that's how we get good jobs and safe jobs and high-paying jobs for Americans. It's a really exciting moment for the American economy. Unemployment is the lowest it's been in 16 years. We have 6 million vacant jobs. The president is making good on job growth and on his top priority, which is jobs, jobs, and jobs. And there's great excitement and enthusiasm in communities like yours as I'm meeting with different groups around the city and around the country. And I want to close by just saying this. I really enjoyed my visit to Detroit. And I enjoyed it because I met with a number of individuals, workers. You know, I remember Marlowe. I invited him to the president's announcement, and unfortunately the president had to reschedule because of the events that happened last week, and it was delayed by 2 days. So I invited Marlo back to my office and sat down with him. And he loves what he does. He loves manufacturing. And for me, that's energizing, because it's great to meet people that have a good job, earn a good pay, and have good employers. And that's what our nation's about. And so I ask that you be a good employer. I ask that you consider this apprenticeship program, that you consider investing in the American worker, because upfront investment in workforce skills today will pay off in productivity, it'll pay off in lower turnover, and it'll pay off in having workers like him that are thankful for being given the opportunity, that love what they do, that are excited about what they do, and that constantly want to learn and push themselves. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it. That was good. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Secretary. We are very excited to begin a new chapter with the Department of Labor and to work with you on your apprenticeship program and dealing with the skills gap. I thought I'd take a moment because we've mentioned her name so many times today already, to introduce you, if you haven't already met her, to Carolyn Lee. Carolyn, as you heard, is the new head of our Manufacturing Institute. And Carolyn, we've got 2 million jobs that have to be filled, or 3.5 million jobs that have to be filled. 2 million are going to go unfilled. That's your problem. So we know you're going to fix it, and I thought I'd ask you to just say a few words to the folks here.
Thank you, Jay. Just a small task for my new job. So thank you all for being here. The Institute, for those of you who already know the Manufacturing Institute, you know the great work that it has done for all these years. And I have a great team of people who are working on this enormous problem. But we have a great vision for what's ahead, and I'll be looking to contact each and every one of you, and I mean each and every one of you, as we try to build out the programs that we need to fill the gap that we have today and the gap that's coming in the future. But it's more than that, too. We talked a lot this morning about the apprenticeship programs, which are critical, but we also have to inspire the next generation, and we have to inspire their parents to be willing to have their kids go into the next generation of manufacturing as well. And so there's a role for everybody, and we'll be looking to you for your help and your experience. We know this is something that each and every one of you and your companies are passionate about. So, we look forward to what's ahead, and I'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thanks. We're very excited about the next chapter as well for the Manufacturing Institute, and we will involve everybody here. So we're getting ready now to head back to Capitol Hill, and I'm going to ask you to do one thing if you haven't already done it. And I'm going to call somebody out just because I know I can, because we're good friends, and that's John Hay. So stand up, John. So I want you to notice that John Hay looks like he belongs in Washington, D.C. He's wearing a tie and a shirt, and that stuffy look. That's not how to have fun. The way to have fun is to be dressed in blue and to have a sea of blue on Capitol Hill and to make our voices heard. So John, just in case you misplaced it, here's your shirt, buddy. And I'd like to ask all of you, I was always the geek. That's the first pass that I've ever done that's connected. So if you have a chance, stop by your room and put on your blue, your dress blues, if you would, and build on our momentum from yesterday, folks. We had a great day yesterday. We had tremendous coverage throughout this country, as I mentioned before. We need you to connect with your leaders. We need you to tell your stories. This is about people. This is not about numbers. Yes, those numbers are important, and I know all of your CFOs are really focused on what the what the numerical benefits are from tax reform and regulatory reform, and that's all great. But the bottom line is this. We lift America. We build America. We are the antidote to those folks who feel that America has left them behind. Our jobs are good jobs. You heard it from Alex Acosta. They're great jobs. They build the middle class. They strengthen our country. Tell those stories. Tell the stories of the folks that you work with every single day. I know that you know those stories. I know that you know what jobs in manufacturing has meant for so many families across this country. And members of Congress, members of the Senate, they need to hear those stories. And that's the way we advance our cause on taxes and regulation and infrastructure and workforce development. So with that, have a great and successful morning. Please be back here at 11:15. We have our House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy, joining us then. So until then, have a great day. 11:15.
He's there already.
So that song is from Coldplay. It's called Clocks, and I actually like it, and I play it quite often because it reminds me that our most finite resource is time. And as we start to talk to, or as we continue to talk to members of Congress about the needs of manufacturers, we need to remind them that time is running out for us to maintain our mantle of leadership in the world and in a global economy, and that what they do today is going to pay big dividends for manufacturing and for America in the future. Someone who really understands that and gets that and has been an incredible friend and ally to the National Association of Manufacturers is the House Majority Leader, Kevin McCarthy. And I'm really pleased that he's with us here today. In addition to serving as Majority Leader since 2014, he represents California's 23rd district. Leader McCarthy understands our priorities because he learned the importance of business and entrepreneurship firsthand at the age of 21. Now, think about what you were doing at 21. I know what I was doing, and it was not a pretty picture. So I think it was pretty impressive that Kevin McCarthy started his own small business, Kevin O's Deli. He says that experience, particularly the rules, the paperwork, and the taxes that we all know all too well, led him to enter public service. Kevin McCarthy says he views his mission as fighting for a strong, fiscally responsible, and free America where every person has the ability to achieve the American dream. I think that's a mission that manufacturers share as well. Now, after his remarks, we'll have time for a few quick questions, and you can submit those by emailing summit@nam.org or using hashtag MFG Summit on Twitter. So again, that's summit@nm, I didn't even get it right, summit@nam.org or on Twitter, hashtag MFG Summit. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome a tireless ally for manufacturers, House Majority Leader Kevin McCarthy.
Well, thank you very much. You've had a very successful couple days. And I don't know if they saved the best for last or just to give a reason that you could have lunch. Not quite sure. But you'll be the judge of that a little later. So Jay told you a little bit about myself. First of all, just so you understand, I'm from California. I happen to be a Republican, and people think there's not very many of us left out there, but I'm still from there. But I want to give you a little background on who I am before I tell you what we're doing, so you understand where I come from. I did happen to grow up in a family of all Democrats. I'm from Bakersfield. It is agriculture, oil, and aerospace. And we're still family ag, but we're big ag. So I have two families in my district that grow 80% of all the carrots in the country. And we invented, you know that little baby carrot you eat? You want to know what it is? It's a regular big carrot. We chop it, charge you more, you buy it, and we love you for it. But you know what? We manufacture that carrot. When it comes to energy, my one county produces more oil as a county than any other county in the country. And it's in California. You wouldn't think that. But we have struggles with regulations where it's going. So I grew up in this family. I'm the youngest. My father has 2 jobs. I'm Irish and Italian, so we have the best fights in the neighborhood. And I get out of high school. My folks don't have wealth to send me to college. I thought I deserved a scholarship, athletically, but nobody else did. So I go to my junior college, but I always had a job. And what I did was I met this guy who owned a liquor store but had a car dealer's license. I'll leave it to you how an 18-year-old meets a man like this. But Bakersfield's a couple hours north of L.A. So I talked him into taking me to the L.A. car auctions where all of the dealers bring their trade-ins. And I would go there, take the money I had saved, and I would buy and sell cars, and I would flip them to help pay my way through college. It's illegal, but I did not know it at the time. I was just being an entrepreneur. So I'm doing this, and what do you do when you go to junior college? You go visit your friends away at college on the weekends, right? So I go to the grocery store, this is 1985, to cash a check, to get my money for the weekend. The day before, the lottery had just started in California. So what did I do? I bought a ticket, and I won the lottery. True story, I was one of the first winners in, in California. It's before Lotto. The most you can win was $5,000, but put yourself in my place. It's 1985, you just won $5,000, you're 18 years old, it's Friday night, and you're 10 minutes away from Tijuana, right? So I do with the money, I take my folks to the nicest dinner. I can tell you exactly what they still ordered. My brother ordered dessert to make the price higher. Gave my brother and sister each $100. You know what I did with the rest? I put it all in one stock. One thing you'll learn about me, I'm a risk taker. And I did pretty well. It was the 80s. So the next semester, I told my folks I wasn't going back to school. So I took my money from my cards, I took my money from the stock, and I went to buy a franchise. Soon learned that no one will sell a 19-year-old a franchise. But that did not deter me. Another trait I have is I never give up. So I went and I opened my own deli. It was Subway before there were Subways. I even built the counter myself in my dad's garage. And there's 3 lessons I learned if you're a small business owner. You're the first to work, you're the last to leave, and you're last to be paid. But it was some of the most successful and rewarding times I ever had. And people ask me what really drove me to get in politics, because that was not my desire. I remember this one morning, I'm there a couple hours early. I got like 7 different employees there. We're chopping up the meat. We're chopping up the vegetables. And it's 2 hours before we open. And my deli was all glass out front. And I look out front, and there's somebody knocking at the door. I look out there, and it's a little pickup truck from the city. It has the seal of the city on it. I'm thinking, I bet they want to give me a key to the city, right? How many young guys have that? Little did I know the man wanted to give me a ticket for my sign. You know, when you're a small business, you put all your money. I put a new sign out there. He said I went beyond the regulation to put a sign to tell people to come in and buy a sandwich there. I said, let me get this right. Your job is to go around, give me a ticket for a sign that I'm trying to sell more sandwiches, pay more sales tax, to pay your salary, to come and harass me for it? It was a little frustrating. But you know what? At the end of 2 years, I was really successful. So now I have enough money to pay my whole way through college, and I wouldn't have to work. And no one in my family had finished 4 years of college at this time. So I sold my business. And I look in the paper, and it says, be a summer intern in Washington, D.C. with my local congressman. Now, I do not know this man, but I thought he'd be lucky to have me. So I applied. And you know what he did? He turned me down. But you want to know the end of the story? I now sit in the seat that I could not get an internship for. Only in America. Only in America could that happen, but could that happen again today? Could I open that same business today? I went back, got my undergrad, got my MBA, started a couple other small businesses, and then got engaged. I tell you that story because I want you to understand, I understand what you go through. I want you to understand what I fight for here and what drives me. I have watched from these last years, I got here in 2007. And I watched those 8 years of that last administration, regulation after regulation being compounded upon us. Do you know how big the Federal Register is today? 80 King James Bibles. Do you realize if an agency proposes a new regulation, they score it, meaning what will it cost all of us? If it reaches 100 million, it's a major ruling. When I found that out, I said, oh, there must only be a few of those to happen in a lifetime. 82 of those would get enacted every single year for the last 5 years. That's what's been put upon us. So that's why it costs more to carry out the jobs that we want to do or push us to another place to do it. So I would continue to fight this, thinking there's a window and an opportunity. When we did finally win, and this is news that I don't know that I see on TV very often, because there's a method to why we're doing what we're doing in the order of what we're doing. There is a law in the books called the Congressional Review Act that allows us to go back 60 legislative days and look at any of these regulations that people of these agencies have imposed on us. And legislative days means were we in session. So last year was an election year. We could go back a little further. But do you know that law has been on the books, but only one time has it ever been signed into law and used? I don't know if people tell you this, but this administration has signed 14 into law, the most ever in the history of America. And it's not the idea that we're just going to take this regulation out until there's a new administration. In the history of this country, they can never go back to it. We are putting it in stone. Two things happen. It changes the mindset of those in the agencies. The president's picked tremendous cabinet. It's the people underneath. We have to tell them there's something new happening in this country. So when I went to look about this, I think we had to go at it in two different methods. One, we have to change the structure. So we passed a bill in the House called the REINS Act. The REINS Act simply says this: no agency can enact a new major ruling without a vote of the House and the Senate. Why? Because that's where the people loan their power. That's where the people should have a say. So we changed the structure for going on to the future. We pull back that regulation that didn't have the input because nobody ever voted for all these that got compounded upon us. So let's have a say about that. And then moving forward, let's restructure the way we're looking. And to do so, I think we have to start looking legislatively, and this is why it's the perfect time for you to be here. And I thank you for going onto the Hill. You know why I know you're on the Hill? Because members have told me. One of my jobs is to schedule the floor. This week, you know what we have up. The Perkins. Do you realize the last time they dealt with this was 2006? Well, that's not that long ago, right? Apple didn't have an iPhone in 2006. It's been a decade since we reauthorized. It's been a world of change in our life through technology, but we're living with old rules. How can we compete with the future if we do not modernize? I want to take the traditions of the past, but apply them to a changing future. Do you realize we create as much data in 2 days as we did from the beginning of time until 2003? And it's only moving faster. We need to make sure government is modernizing and allowing you to be able to have the workforce that you need. I look at the number of manufacturing jobs that are supposed to be created in the next 10 years. It gets up to 4 million. But they talk of maybe 2 million of won't be filled because you won't have the quality of the workforce. That's a fault on us if we sit back and do nothing. I look at the last May jobs report. The AP simply writes in there, there's a challenge to even have the best workforce. So let's not have one dictate, and let's not have this be the only piece of legislation that we do. And I'll tell you, this week will prove that it's not. We're actually taking TANF and applying it to individuals who are out of work, helping them get into work to make the payment directly to you to actually give them the jobs training and let them go to work. It's a new way of thinking with an old problem to get people back in the job force. I think that is what people are looking for. I'll tell you, there's a couple points I want to bring up. You can't expect at the end of the day that we're going to know all your challenges. When you go to the offices, build a relationship. You might not meet the member. She or he may not be there. Make that relationship with the staff. Make a personal relationship. And make this one pledge, if you would do it. Invite them to your place of work. Look, members, we know about this much of everything. I always say there's a difference between the House and the Senate. The Senate is like a country club. The House is like having breakfast at a truck stop, all right? We're a microcosm of society. We love to go meet new people. We're back in our districts almost every week. We're the closest. But you know where we learn the most is not sitting behind inside one of our rooms and committees. It's actually being on the ground floor. Make us walk the floor of the manufacturing. Tell us what the challenges are right there and tell us your ideas. It's not going to be easy for this task, but don't expect us just to write it to get a no. Continue the pressure on us. The only way we can peel back the number of regulations, I'm proud, I brag about the 14, but Jay tells me there's 297, 600 more to go. That's a lofty goal, but we're going to work towards it. I want to give you some news that when I turn on television, I can't find news anymore, I find opinions. And you can get them in any philosophy you want it to carry for you. And you know, it seems to me, I've never seen a president in the history of America that had to wait so long to have a cabinet. George Washington got his faster. I never watched, if you check the data, that ever had somebody cover a president in such a negative sense if they're trying to be fair and balanced. So let me tell you actual facts of what's happening inside your House of Representatives and your Senate and down at the White House. I hired this company called Quorum. They're two young, smart kids from Harvard, and all they do is with data. I said, give me the last 30 years of the first 100 days, 130 days, of how many bills have passed Congress and how many bills have been signed by the president. And give it to me when a new president comes in, because I want to measure apples to apples. So we went back to George H.W. Bush. So you have George H.W. Bush, you have Clinton, you have President Bush, you have Obama, and you have Donald Trump. Do you know which Congress has passed the most bills? As 2 weeks ago, the first 138 days, the current Congress we're in, 158 bills. Overwhelmingly, the most. A lot of those are what I've told you about CRAs and repealing. Do you know which president has signed the most pieces of legislation of those presidents? Your current president, President Trump. I don't think you've heard that somewhere on the news today, and I don't think you've heard it somewhere else. So I think we should be held accountable, but we also should be able to know exactly where we are. I believe in metrics. I believe in measuring where we're going and where we're moving up. Now, after you invite that member to come to your line of work, ask them and put a group together of your employees and just have a little conversation. And start with this question. Go around and have them introduce themselves and have them ask where they learned to get this job. Did they go to community college? Did you train them or somebody else? So they can really grasp what is needed. Because I will tell you, in the community college that I started in Bakersfield College, the technical training has the highest number of jobs after graduation than any other sector in that community college. And their pay is higher than the median of the others. 8 out of 10, almost immediately do they find a job. But we should be able to train and adapt. Adaption is probably the most important thing we can do. We cannot wait another 10 years when we think about doing more legislation. The world moves too fast for us. So I know we're going to get into questions, but I want to leave you with this. If you're over at the Capitol, feel free to come into my office. It's on the first floor. But when you come in, I want you to come in for this purpose. I believe in a purpose-driven life. The things I put on my wall have importance. So I put different pictures. I put pictures of portraits that are painted of my favorite presidents, Abraham Lincoln and Ronald Reagan. I think at times they talk to us, tell us advice of what they should do. I think the greatest advice either of them would tell us, believe in the exceptionalism of this country. Lincoln would tell us that for this reason. I believe in the Gettysburg Address. You all know it 77 years ago. Our forefathers brought forth a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated the proposition that all men are created equal. He goes on to say, but if we fail, government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from earth. No other country has been conceived in that manner. And the foundation of liberty and that we're all free. Do you know when I realized it the most? Didn't come from another American, didn't come from a book, didn't come from a committee. But I was sitting in the rotunda and I was waiting for Shimon Peres, at the time, he has now passed, was president of Israel. He was 91 years old. We're giving him a medal of honor from Congress. And he stands before us, not being an American, he looks at us and he goes, you live in the greatest nation that's ever been on the face of the earth. Not the greatest nation in his lifetime, but in the history of earth. He goes, you know what your greatness comes from? Not what America will take, but what America will give. America will give the ultimate sacrifice of life for another country to have freedom. And with that freedom becomes human rights and a free market. That is who we are. And at times I think people forget it. We should never apologize for what this country and the fiber and the morals of what it is based upon. But once you see those paintings, I want to bring you into the final one, and this is what I'll leave you with. In the conference room is where we devise a lot of our budgets. The conference room is where we devise a lot of our legislation. It's the biggest conference room in the Capitol. And in there I had this artist paint 8 feet by 16 feet, Washington crossing the Delaware. You all remember that portrait where Washington is standing up on a rowboat where he crosses the Delaware and there's men in there rowing in the boat? I had him put there for a purpose. Because that action took place Christmas Eve, 1776. There's no cameras at the time. The artist who painted the original one that hangs up in New York painted it in 1850. And he was a German immigrant who had lived in America for about 10 years. So he was not there and he didn't have a picture to go by. So he painted it in what he envisioned had taken place that night. So he puts 13 people in a rowboat. 13 colonies, right? But there's only 12 faces. He puts Washington in a ceremonial uniform, crossing the Delaware at night. You look at Washington, you think, that man has never lost a battle. That man had not won one yet. That was our first victory when we surprised the Hessians. But what I want you to look at next is who was in the boat. If you look at the second person, he's wearing a beret, he's Scottish. You look at the person directly across from him rowing, African American. You come down the boat a little ways, in the red is a woman, and in the very back is a Native American. Now, I don't know if they were all in that boat that day, but to this artist, he believed in the America that he lived, they would be. The point I make to all the members, notice they're all rowing in the same direction, something we don't always do. But I would key you on the second to last person. He's a farmer, and he has a hand across his face right here. It's the hand of the 13th person you don't see. You see, that 13th person is you. Because what the artist was saying, here we are as a nation, having never won before, risking everything in the concept of freedom and liberty. On our holiest of nights, here's a hand, would you get in and join us? That is as true today as it was then. Do not expect that a few members of Congress are going to solve your problems. We need to get in the boat together. You help us. It's better that you tell us what you need for a workforce than us legislate and tell you what you're going to get for a workforce. Be engaged, and that's what you're doing today. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Yes, let's do it. So, thank you so much, Leader. We appreciate you being here with us. We know you have to get back to the Hill. I'd ask you to repeat one thing that you said, which I think is such an important message and an important reminder. You said, be sure to invite members of Congress into manufacturing facilities. That really does make an impact, right? When they see real people in the real world.
Invite them in, tell them they can take a picture, and tell them to put it on Instagram. They will do it. But the one thing is, when you invite them, if they don't come, call back. We're going to have, in August, 4th of July, they love it. And do not have them come in and treat them something special. You put the sign up. We all get excited if we see our name when we walk in and there's a sign, even if it's only us seeing it. That's good. But make them meet people. And don't let's give them a tour and out the door. Give them a tour so they understand, then come back into a meeting, tell them what the challenges are, then meet employees and let them hear from them.
And that last part's the most important, right? Because I see so often, folks will take an elected official through their facility really quickly and forget that it's actually the people there that can make the biggest impact.
They'll want to meet the employees. Everybody they meet that day is going to be a voter. But what's going to happen in the member's mind, she or he, they're getting educated. Sometimes members get embarrassed that everybody thinks we should know everything. Why would we know manufacturing if they didn't do it? Yeah, I couldn't get on Ways and Means, so I ran for leadership. No. The best thing you could do, they'll walk away from it and keep the staff that comes there in a relationship and keep giving them ideas. You will help them improve their job, but what you will find so many times before, there'll be people in this room that actually write the next workforce bill. And it'll probably be the most successful because it's coming from reality of what's actually happening and the problem of what's out there.
Well, thank you, Leader. We see you wearing the Florida Lead. Just be sure to tell Congressman Scalise we're thinking of him, and we appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, well, now it's time for something really good, lunch. We're going to let you actually eat, and as a reward for all your hard work this morning, you actually get fed. And this is going to be the last formal part of the summit. And I hope everyone has come away from the summit experience with a recognition that, as we said yesterday, and as you heard from the Vice President, as you heard from the speaker, and was evidenced by our speakers today, this is manufacturing's moment. Your voices matter, and they make a difference with our leaders in Washington. I can remember on numerous occasions speaking and talking about it's never mattered more than it matters now. Well, the irony is that really is true today, because we have so many people that are listening to what it takes for you to succeed, what it takes for you to invest, what it takes for you to grow jobs in the United States of America. They want to know what it takes. They want to be our allies. They want to help us get that job done. You have influence. There's no doubt about that. And we don't want it to end today. Coming to Washington is a powerful statement, but it's not one that you can make every single day, obviously. There are, however, things that you can do 365 days a year to take action.
Oh, you want to make your voice heard, but you're too busy doing this, and can't forget about this. Actually, you can do something, and it doesn't require a picket sign. Attend a district meeting with a member of Congress, or heck, invite them to tour your plant to see what real productivity looks like. Share an NAM action alert with 5 friends. Sign up as an NAM key contact. Help elect candidates who support manufacturing. Submit an op-ed. Testify in front of Congress. Bring employees together regularly to discuss key policy. Or come to DC. Attend the NAM's Manufacturing Summit. And regardless of where you are, tweet, email, and send a letter to your legislators right from home. Because big or small, together we're a manufacturing army. A group of doers, creators, and makers, over 12 million strong. You can't ignore that. Take action. Take the manufacturing challenge. Text MFG Challenge to 52886.
Now I need to ask you, that deserves some applause. I need to ask you a very direct question. It's not one that I've asked at these summits before. Why are you here? Are you here because it was a nice trip? Or are you here because you really give a damn? Are you here because you care about the future of our industry and because you believe in this exceptional country? If you really care, then advocacy has to be something that you do all year long. You just heard about the Manufacturing Challenge. You can see it right there. You've got more information at your table. And I challenge you to commit to being a manufacturing advocate for the next 365 days and engaging your team to take the actions that we've just put in front of you. We hope that you're going to lead by example. And for anyone who engages and completes at least 7 of these 10 actions, we're going to recognize them and their companies online at the next summit. So I need your help. Take out your phones. Go ahead, you can do it right now. Take them out. And text MFG Challenge to 52886. Either do it now or do it later, but do it. And once you've signed up, we're going to follow up with you via email. And the bottom line is there's just too much at stake right now to make advocacy a once-a-year thing. At the NAM, we've invested significant resources on the tools that you and your team need to be effective. And if you don't know where to find the resources that you need, just ask. Your NAM is here for you. So as we end, once again, I do want to thank our sponsors who made this historic summit possible: Anheuser-Busch, Tellurian, and GM. Thank you all so much. Let's give them a round of applause, please. We're going to depart for our last round of Hill visits after lunch. But before that, let me put one more thing on your radar, and that's Manufacturing Day 2017. Many of you have already signed up to help us with that effort. It's coming October the 6th. This year, the NAM will be taking on full hosting responsibilities for Manufacturing Day, and we're going to need your help and support to make this year's Manufacturing Day the absolute best yet. For more details, you can visit mfgday.com. And then lastly, I want to thank the tremendous team that we have at the NAM, your team. We have 130 professionals who live, breathe, and eat manufacturing and manufacturing success every single day. They love what they do. They love working with you. They're energized and inspired by your stories and the stories of the people that you work with. So would you please join me in thanking them for a job well done today and every day. And then lastly, thanks again to each and every one of you. Thanks to our live stream audience. Washington has heard you. Now our job is to make sure that they continue to hear us every single day. Thank you and enjoy your lunch. Good luck this afternoon and safe travels.